This will be uncomfortable. That's the first truth you must accept. Because the moment you confront the reality of your own focus, you will see how much of your life has been stolen. Not by thieves in the night, but by the slow, invisible erosion of your attention. Empires fall not because their walls collapse, but because the eyes of their leaders wander. Your life is no different. History whispers a terrifying fact. Civilizations were not conquered solely by superior armies, but by distraction, by indulgence, by the loss of inward gaze. Rome did not fall in a single night. It decayed slowly as attention shifted from discipline to spectacle, from focus to entertainment, from building to consuming. The same force works against you. While you tell yourself you are in control, your focus is siphoned off into endless fragments, and your empire, your mind, your future, your destiny rots from within. But here lies the paradox. Focus is invisible, yet it is everything. You cannot touch it, yet it builds nations. You cannot hold it, yet it holds the structure of your identity. And still, you give it away as if it were worthless. Scroll by scroll, click by click, thought by thought. Tell me, how many times have you promised yourself you'd concentrate, only to find yourself derailed by a sudden impulse, a fleeting distraction, a trivial notification? Each one seems harmless, but each one is a theft. What if I told you that the greatest weapon in human history is not the sword, not the spear, not even money or power? It is focus. Empires were carved from wilderness by minds that refused to scatter. Leaders who could hold a vision so tightly that entire generations bent around it. Caesar, Alexander, Genghis Khan. They understood a truth most men ignore. Attention is domination. To command where your gaze rests is to command the very structure of reality. And yet, doesn't this sound absurd? After all, the world celebrates multitasking, the constant juggling of fragments. We are told that to be everywhere at once is strength. But what if the opposite is true? What if being everywhere is exactly why you are nowhere? You feel the contradiction, don't you? You've been told that freedom is having options, the ability to scatter your time and energy into endless pursuits. But secretly, you've also felt the opposite, that your power is strongest when you lock in, when nothing else exists but the one task before you. Which is it then? Is freedom in the scattering, or is freedom in the narrowing? The tension grows deeper when you ask yourself, who benefits from your distraction? If your focus builds empires, then whose empire are you building when you spend hours scrolling, binging, consuming? Is it yours, or are you merely a bricklayer in someone else's vision? You sense the danger here. Because this is not just about personal productivity or time management. This is about control. If your focus determines your reality, then whoever controls your focus controls you. Your mind may be a battlefield, and you may already be losing. So here's the great question. Why do you allow yourself to scatter, to weaken, to divide? Why does a part of you crave distraction, even as another part longs for empire? Why is it so easy to lose focus when you know, deep down, that your entire destiny depends on it? Is it because you fear the silence that comes when you face yourself directly? Is it because focus demands sacrifice and distraction feels easier? Or is it something even darker? Something planted deep in the psychology of mankind, a hidden current that pulls you away from your center without you even noticing. You must feel it now, the weight of this truth pressing down on you. Focus is not merely about achievement, but about survival. To scatter is to dissolve. To concentrate is to exist. If you do not master this weapon, you will not merely drift through life. You will be conquered by it. But here's the unsettling twist. The very thing that feels most natural to you, seeking stimulation, scattering your energy, indulging in every passing urge, is the very thing that ensures your ruin. You call it choice. You call it freedom. But maybe it is slavery disguised as liberty. Maybe you are chained not by others, but by the endless fractures of your own attention. And so, the stage is set. The question has been asked. The paradox has been revealed. Focus builds empires, but distraction devours them. The only thing left to uncover is why the human mind betrays itself, why society rewards its own weakness, and why breaking free from this silent enemy feels impossible. The answers lie deeper, in the shadows of psychology, in the whispers of philosophy, in the brutal honesty of history. And to confront them, you must be ready to abandon comfort. Because comfort is where distraction thrives. Now the real descent begins. The tragedy is that you think distraction is accidental, that it just happens to you, that your lack of focus is merely a modern curse born of screens, devices, and the chaos of the digital world. But this problem is far older than technology. The war for attention began long before the first glowing screen, before the printing press, before the marketplace of endless voices. It is not simply a technological disease. It is a human disease. Carl Jung once wrote that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's the heart of the hidden problem. You are not merely distracted by external noise. You are sabotaged by the unconscious forces within you. The truth is painful. Your mind has always longed for escape. You may tell yourself you want focus, clarity, empire, but something deeper, more primal, resists. The human psyche carries a paradox. It craves greatness, but fears the responsibility of becoming great. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this with terrifying clarity. He warned that most people do not truly want freedom. They want comfort, predictability, the soothing lull of distraction. For freedom means carrying the weight of your choices, forging meaning in a world that offers none. And what is focus, if not the most radical form of freedom? To direct your attention where you choose, rather than where impulse drags you. Yet how few achieve this? How many instead sell their focus cheaply to every passing temptation? The hidden problem, then, is not that distraction exists. It is that your psyche secretly welcomes it. Distraction is relief. To focus is to suffer, because focus strips away the illusions that keep you comfortable. When you are forced to sit in silence, to concentrate, you see yourself as you are, unfulfilled, restless, unfinished. So you run into the glowing screen, into the endless feed, into anything that numbs the truth. Machiavelli, though often remembered as a cynic, understood human weakness better than most. In The Prince, he observed that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. He might have added, unfocused. Leaders who commanded power were those who understood this flaw and bent it to their will. To control the focus of the masses was to rule them. Bread and circuses, spectacle, diversion. The empire could rot, but as long as attention was redirected, the people would not rise. Does this sound familiar? You are not as free as you think. Every advertisement, every headline, every piece of media is engineered with a single purpose: to hijack your focus. The architects of distraction know your psychology better than you do. They know your unconscious desires, your unspoken fears, your craving for novelty, and they weaponize them. You think you are choosing freely, but your choices are being guided, nudged, corralled into paths that serve others, not you. And yet, the deepest root of the problem is not external manipulation. It is internal weakness. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus warned that no man is free who is not master of himself. If you cannot master your own attention, then what freedom do you have? If your focus is scattered by every triviality, are you not enslaved, no matter how loudly you proclaim independence? The psychology of attention reveals just how fragile you are. Your brain, wired for survival, has always been drawn to novelty, to anything that might signal danger or opportunity. In the wild, this instinct kept you alive. Today, it keeps you trapped. The constant ping of stimulation feels urgent, even when it is irrelevant. And so you chase it again and again, while your deeper goals, the ones that require sustained focus, wither. But there is another layer still. Jung would call it the shadow, that hidden part of you that resists discipline, that craves chaos, that secretly wants to dissolve instead of build. You say you want greatness, but a part of you fears it. Because greatness demands sacrifice, because empire demands focus. And your shadow whispers, why suffer when you can indulge? Why build when you can drift? Why bear the burden of power when you can surrender it so easily? Here lies the hidden problem. The enemy is not just out there. It is in here, inside you. You are not merely a victim of distraction. You are a collaborator with it. You allow yourself to scatter because part of you wants to. Because to focus would mean facing the terrifying responsibility of becoming what you are capable of being. And that, perhaps, is the heaviest burden of all. So the question grows sharper. If distraction is not an accident, but a choice, an unconscious choice, what then? If you are complicit in your own downfall, what hope do you have of breaking free? If your shadow hungers for weakness, how do you starve it without starving yourself? This is the philosophical abyss. This is the root, and unless you see it clearly, you will never escape. But seeing it is only the beginning, because beneath this root, beneath this disease of distraction, lie consequences so vast, so terrifying, that most people never dare to name them. And those consequences are already shaping your life. What happens when focus decays? Not in theory, but in your life, right now. The consequences do not announce themselves loudly. They creep in silently, invisibly. 1,000 small fractures that eventually collapse the structure of your existence. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly realize you've lost control. Instead, you erode bit by bit, until one day you look back and wonder, where did the years go? Neurology provides the first clue. Your brain is plastic. It rewires itself according to what you feed it. Every moment of distraction is not neutral. It is a training. When you scroll endlessly, you are training your brain to crave novelty, to expect stimulation every few seconds. The circuits of deep focus, the ones that allow you to read a book for hours, to sit with a problem until it yields, atrophy like unused muscles. And here lies the devastating truth. Your ability to focus is not something you keep by default. It is something you build or destroy every single day. Cognitive science has a name for this: attentional residue. Every time you switch tasks, fragments of your attention remain stuck on the previous one. Like shards of glass in the mind, these fragments scatter your power. The result? You are never fully present anywhere. You half work, half daydream, half listen, half live. And when the fragments accumulate, you live in a fog, not because life is unclear, but because your mind is never fully here. The consequences ripple outward. Psychologically, distraction breeds weakness. You become reactive instead of proactive. Instead of shaping your reality, you respond to it. Instead of deciding what matters, you let the loudest voice in the room decide for you. Slowly, imperceptibly, your agency slips away. You call it being busy. But what is busyness, if not slavery to endless trivialities? Culturally, the trap is even deeper. Societies of scattered minds become easy to rule. Bread and circuses were not just entertainment, they were control mechanisms. Keep the masses distracted, and they will never question their chains. Today, the circuses are endless. News cycles designed to outrage, entertainment designed to addict, social platforms designed to consume your every idle second. The result? A civilization of fractured attention, too scattered to build, too numbed to resist, too distracted to even notice its decline. The most terrifying consequence, however, is existential. Distraction steals not only your time, but your identity. You become fragmented, 1,000 half-lived versions of yourself. Focus is the act of choosing what you will be. To concentrate is to declare, "This matters, this is me." But when you scatter, you refuse to choose. You dissolve into everything and nothing. You become a ghost in your own life, present everywhere, grounded nowhere. Nietzsche warned of the last man, the final stage of humanity, comfortable, entertained, endlessly distracted, unwilling to strive for greatness. A creature who confuses ease with happiness and scattering with freedom. Look around you. Do you not see him everywhere? He smiles, he scrolls, he consumes, but he builds nothing. He dies having existed, but never truly lived. And here is the cruel irony. You think distraction costs you only minutes. In reality, it costs you entire lifetimes. That book you never wrote, that empire you never built, that potential you never claimed. Focus is the only bridge between vision and reality. Without it, your dreams remain smoke. With it, they become stone. So when you surrender your focus, you are not just wasting time, you are killing futures that will never be born. But perhaps the darkest consequence is spiritual. Distraction robs you of depth. You skim across the surface of life, never plunging into its depths. You never truly know yourself, because self-knowledge requires silence, solitude, concentration. Hume warned that, who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakes. But to look inside demands focus, and so you dream endlessly, drifting in a half-sleep, never awakening. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat alone, without a screen, without noise, without anything to pull your mind away, and simply thought? For most, the answer is terrifying, because silence has become unbearable, and this is the final prison. You are so conditioned to scatter that stillness feels like death. So here we stand. The problem is no longer hidden. The roots have been exposed, the consequences have been laid bare. If focus builds empires, then distraction is slow suicide. It erodes your mind, your culture, your identity, your very soul. The only question that remains is whether you can rebel, whether you can seize back what has been stolen, whether you can reclaim the weapon of focus and wield it as it was meant to be wielded. Not against yourself, but for yourself. The rebellion must begin. You now know the enemy. It is not merely the screen, not merely the culture, not even manipulative algorithms engineered to devour your mind. The enemy is deeper. It is the part of you that surrenders, the part of you that chooses ease over empire, scattering over strength. But if you know the enemy, you can rebel against it, and rebellion is the only way out. Breaking free will not be comfortable. It is not a soft correction or a polite adjustment. It is a war. You are reclaiming your most precious weapon, your focus, from the countless forces that have stolen it. And like all wars worth fighting, it begins first within. The first act of rebellion is radical awareness. You must see clearly that every moment of distraction is not neutral, but a transaction. Each second given to triviality is a second taken from your empire. Once you recognize this, you can no longer lie to yourself. You can no longer say, "I'll just scroll for a few minutes," because those few minutes are bricks stolen from your kingdom. Awareness is the sword you must draw first, but awareness alone is not enough. You must build fortresses around your focus. Think of history's empires, walls, armies, discipline, not because they loved restriction, but because they understood reality. Without boundaries, empires fall. Your focus requires the same. Boundaries are not chains, they are shields. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to guard his mind against intrusion, to treat it as the ruling citadel. He knew that the mind without defenses is a city open to conquest. How do you build such fortresses? Begin by eliminating the easy intrusions, notifications, endless feeds, meaningless chatter. Every emperor knew the danger of leaving the gates open. To you, each ping, each distraction, each pointless interruption is a barbarian slipping past the walls. Close the gates, sever the channels, choose what enters. Focus is not won in a single great battle, it is defended in countless small ones. But there is a deeper rebellion still. It is not only about cutting off distractions, but about transforming desire itself. You cannot simply fight the shadow by force. You must starve it. Jung taught that what you resist too violently may grow stronger in return. So the way forward is not repression, but redirection. You must teach your mind to crave focus, to find satisfaction in depth rather than in scatter. This is the transformation of hunger, from the shallow pleasure of distraction to the deeper nourishment of creation. Nietzsche offered the path, the will to power, not power over others, but over yourself. The man who can command his own focus is greater than the man who commands nations. Because without self-command, all external power collapses. You must cultivate that will. You must confront the discomfort of stillness, the weight of silence, until it no longer terrifies you. That is rebellion. Not running from discomfort, but harnessing it. History gives us examples of those who mastered this weapon. Alexander the Great, relentless in vision, could march armies across continents because his mind never wavered from his goal. Leonardo da Vinci, despite his scattered experiments, produced works of genius when he plunged into the depth of his focus. The Stoics themselves, Epictetus, a slave who mastered his mind, rising above his chains, not by force of arms but by force of attention. What do they teach you? That empire is not built in chaos, but in clarity. That your power lies not in being everywhere, but in being fully here. So, how do you practice this rebellion in daily life? You strip away the false idea that multitasking is strength. You devote yourself to single tasking with religious fervor. When you read, you read. When you work, you work. When you speak to someone, you give them your full attention as though nothing else exists. It will feel unnatural at first, like holding your breath underwater, but it is in this struggle that your mind is reforged. You must also reclaim ritual. The ancients knew the power of ritual to bind the mind, to create states of concentration. In your world, ritual is nearly extinct, but you can restore it. Begin your day not with the chaos of notifications, but with deliberate silence. Claim the first moments as sacred. Train your mind, like a soldier trains muscle, to begin with command, not reaction. Every empire begins with morning discipline. Yours should too. And perhaps most importantly, you must choose a vision worthy of focus. Focus cannot thrive in emptiness. It needs a direction, a cause, a fire. What are you building? What empire calls you? Without a higher aim, your focus will scatter because it has nowhere to gather. The Stoics, the generals, the visionaries, they were not merely disciplined for discipline's sake. They were disciplined because something greater demanded it of them. What demands it of you? This rebellion is not a weekend resolution. It is a lifelong war, and you will fail many times. You will slip into distraction, you will scatter, you will fall. But rebellion is not perfection. Rebellion is persistence. Each time you return to focus, you are striking another blow against the shadow. Each time you refuse to surrender, you are laying another stone in the foundation of your empire. And there will come a moment, a quiet, almost imperceptible moment, when you will feel it shift. When focus no longer feels like a cage, but like liberation. When depth feels more satisfying than scatter. When you realize that the weapon is finally in your hands, no longer in theirs. That is when you will know the rebellion has succeeded. But this is not the end, for beyond rebellion lies revelation. When you hold the weapon of focus with true mastery, a deeper truth reveals itself. One final, unsettling realization that changes everything you thought you knew. The rebellion is only the threshold. The ultimate truth still waits. You have fought the war. You have glimpsed the rebellion. You have begun to understand that focus is not just a skill, not just a tool. It is a weapon. But there remains one last truth, one final revelation that most never dare to face. It is the truth that makes all the struggle, all the silence, all the sacrifice clear. Here it is. Your focus is not only building your empire, it is creating your reality. Pause and let that sink in. Every empire that ever rose was first imagined. Every invention, every philosophy, every cathedral and kingdom, all of it was once only a thought, sharpened by focus until it became stone and steel. Without focus, the vision would have remained a dream. With focus, the invisible became the visible. Reality itself bent. And if that is true on the grand stage of history, it is no less true within you. Your focus is the architect of your existence. What you choose to attend to over and over becomes your world. Attend to distraction and you build a life of fragments. Attend to fear and you construct prisons around yourself. But attend to vision, attend to purpose, and you build an empire so strong that even death cannot erase its echo. The ultimate truth is that you are not merely living inside reality. You are shaping it, moment by moment, by the weapon of your focus. Your life is not determined by what happens to you, but by what you allow to dominate your attention. Two people can face the same hardship, the same storm, the same chaos. One dissolves, the other rises. Why? Not because the storm was different, but because their focus was. The Stoics understood this in their marrow. Marcus Aurelius ruled the mightiest empire on earth, yet he wrote to himself nightly, reminding himself that the mind is the true kingdom. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. What is that if not a declaration of focus as destiny? Epictetus, a slave, proved the same from the opposite end of society. He had no wealth, no status, no freedom of movement, but he held fast to the one freedom no one could take, the focus of his mind. And with it, he was freer than his masters. This is the final paradox. External power without inner focus collapses. Inner focus without external power endures. And when the two converge, when inner focus builds outer empire, that is when legacies are born. Now ask yourself, what empire are you building? You may think the word empire is too grand, too distant, but your empire is whatever you give your focus to. If you pour it into trivialities, you are building sandcastles that waves will wash away. If you pour it into meaning, into vision, into depth, you are building something eternal. The empire of a strong mind. The empire of a true self. And here lies the danger. The haunting truth that will follow you long after these words. If you do not build your empire, you are building someone else's. Every moment of focus you give away is a brick laid in another's kingdom. When you scroll, when you binge, when you scatter, you are not neutral. You are laboring, unpaid, in the service of empires that do not care if you wither. So the choice is unavoidable. Either you rule your focus, or your focus rules you. Either you build your empire, or you are conquered into someone else's. There is no middle ground, but if you dare to choose mastery, if you dare to seize this weapon fully, everything changes. Because the moment you claim dominion over your focus, you are no longer merely living, you are creating. No circumstance can truly enslave you. No chaos can truly consume you. You become what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the one who transcends, not by conquering the world first, but by conquering himself. And this final truth comes with an unsettling responsibility. You can no longer hide. You can no longer claim ignorance. You know now that your focus is the axis of your destiny. To To squander it is to betray yourself. To wield it is to fulfill yourself. There's no comfort left, only choice. So what will you choose? To dissolve into fragments, to let your attention scatter until you are a ghost in your own life? Or to forge yourself into something unbreakable, to build your empire brick by brick with the weapon that only you can command? This is not just philosophy, this is survival. Focus is not a luxury of ambition. It is the condition of existence itself. To focus is to live. To scatter is to die. That is the ultimate truth. And when you leave this moment, when you step back into the noise of the world, remember this. Every glance, every thought, every second of attention is a vote. A vote for the empire you will serve. Choose carelessly, and you are conquered. Choose deliberately, and you become sovereign. The weapon is already in your hand. The only question that remains is whether you will use it or whether it will be used against you. The silence after this realization is heavy, but in that silence, something stirs. The possibility of empire. The possibility of a life so focused, so unshakable, that the world bends around you instead of breaking you. That is your destiny. That is the final revelation. Do not waste it.